What's going on, guys? Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. So today I want to talk about a stock that Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway owns, and then I'm going to try to answer the question, should we be buying this stock at this moment, right? So obviously none of this is financial advice. This is all my own opinion, right? So do your own research and the disclaimer, blah, blah, blah. So the stock that I'm talking about is Stoneco, and it's down nearly 91% in the past 1.5 years, right, from its all-time high. So I also want to talk about why it's gone down so much. It's very important to know these kind of reasons as well, right? So let's just first talk about Warren Buffett's investment, right? So the company meaning Berkshire, purchased more than 40 million shares of Stoneco at the IPO price, making it 8% owner of the company, right? So Berkshire is known for focusing on blue chip stocks, and this is a new interest in a largely untested fintech company that marked a shift in Warren Buffett's typical investment approach. Buffett is also not notoriously distrustful of IPOs because Buffett has always said that IPOs are basically a seller's market, right? But there are obviously good IPOs. But in my opinion, probably one of his lieutenants did it, right? He has two investment managers that are in Berkshire with him as well, right? And they have a lower amount of capital compared to him. But I believe it's one of them that did it, right? Because basically this is not Buffett's style, and also he has been making huge moves, right? No longer the 1-2 billion kind of moves. He's been making like $10 billion moves or 5 billion at least, right? So in large part due to Berkshire Hathaway's investment, the stock did really well. Basically, it rose 30% in the first 2 days of trading, right? And it became one of Brazil's unicorns, and also was considered widely to be one of the most innovative payment companies in Brazil, right? So other investors include Ant Financial, which is Jack Ma's financial company. So 3G Capital, and I think the rest, I think you will know them. I also don't know them. As you can see from the top, it was about a $25 billion company, right? So now it's a 22.4 billion company. So you might be saying, oh, it's already down 90%, it's going to go to zero, right? So in this video, I'm going to show you some evidence why it's looking cheap and my reasoning for me wanting to buy this stock, right? So disclaimer, I'm already a shareholder, right? But a very small amount of shares, and I'm looking to increase my position. So that's why I might be biased. So do your own research, right? Obviously. So I'm going to start with another one, which is SoFi stock, right? And basically in this video, I'm going to compare both of them and tell you why Stoneco looks cheaper, right? So you can see SoFi stock is down about 80% from its all-time high. So you can already see the disparity, 80 to 90%, right? It might look like a 10% difference, but actually it's a 50% difference from the top, right? If you bought Stoneco at 80% down, now that it's 90% down, you would be down 50% on your money, right? So let's take a look at Stoneco's price to book value, so 1.19, and SoFi's price to book value, which is 0.94, right? So it looks relatively cheap at the moment. And all you have to know about fintech companies is the price of book value usually it's like this, right? So basically this is PayPal, right? I think, yeah, PayPal price to book value is 5, and it's a matured company, not growing as fast. So look at Block, two times price to book value. So let's just start with why the stock is down so heavily in the first place, right? So you can see that in the past few years, right, they have been losing money like quite heavily, right? So it went from a positive company that was making money to losing money, right? So this is a EBIT. So it went from positive 271 million to now losing 500 million, right? So management has talked about this, and what happened is basically the interest rate in Brazil rose at a historical rate, right? And basically what management thought was we can just not pass on this cost to our consumers, and we can continue running our business like this, right? So they were incredibly wrong. They lost a lot of money from that, right? And that is maybe the first reason for the distrust from investors, right? Maybe investors no longer think this management is competent, and that would be very fair, right? How can you think that interest rates rising, you don't pass on the cost, right? But they were focused on growth at the time, growth at any cost. Now they are focused on growth with profitability, right? And the second thing is obviously the interest rates going up as well, right? So we can see that the interest rates in Brazil is currently sitting at 13.75%, right? So very, very high interest rates compared to especially anywhere in the Western world, right? And that will also hit Stoneco's valuation, right? Basically, there will be multiple contraction, right? So if we take a look at the balance sheet, basically, so the balance sheet is looking fine. They have about 1 billion in cash. So you can see that in December 2020, they actually have 2 billion in cash, right? But you can see that they have their cash position, but their market cap went down 90%, right? So that is something to look at as well, right? And talking about growth and all that, it hasn't really slowed down from that time, but maybe, of course, the discount rate that people applied to the company and also the interest rate that people were willing to pay for this company. Basically, higher interest rate means you're only willing to pay a lower multiple for this company, right? So we can see on their assets. Let me just do the. So this price to book value is not really accurate, right? So because it includes goodwill, and goodwill is basically garbage. You don't have to think about goodwill as a real asset, right? Unless you are running some media company or something like that, which is not really a tangible asset either. So I wouldn't really normally include goodwill into my calculations. So if you do the math, Stoneco is actually not trading at such a high price to book value, right? So such a low price to book value. It's trading more like a 2 price to book value at the moment, right? So that is also something that we need to look out for. You can't just rely on all these numbers, right? So I'm not going to run through SoFi's price to book value and all that as well, because I feel I'm not so interested in SoFi, so you guys can do it yourself, right? But basically, the reason that I'm not investing in SoFi is stock-based dilution, right? So you can see that stock-based compensation as a percentage of revenue, SoFi peak was at 27.5%, right? So basically, every dollar of revenue that they produce, someone is getting 27.5 cents, right? And they compare with Palantir, which is another company that I'm really, really in love with, but the stock-based compensation has just stopped me from investing, right? So that's the reason why I'm not really looking at SoFi, right? Because normally American, especially tech companies, they have a very high stock-based compensation, especially when you're smaller, right? Because you can't afford to pay cash for those compensation, right? Which is understandable, but at the same time, maybe something that investors are looking to avoid, right? Because we don't want to be diluted. So let's take a look at the bull case for basically Stoneco, right? So we can see that the valuation, blah blah blah. So investment thesis, Buffett back gain traction, blah blah blah. So this company is benefiting from the acceleration of digital transformation in LATAM and is continuing to post strong revenue growth. So that is something that we cannot deny, right? Latin America is basically growing at a breakneck speed, right? So Stoneco is a Brazilian-based fintech company founded in 2000. I think this is from Google, and I don't think it's right? So the company offers financial services and software solutions to merchants and consumers across Brazil, right? So basically, if I forgot to mention, yeah, this is what they do, right? So they don't sell, the marijuana, right? Even though their name is Stoneco, right? But basically, they sell payment products, and it's a fintech company, right? Basically. So Stoneco's main product is point of sales solutions to small and medium businesses. It allows these businesses to accept digital payment easily via handheld terminal, QR code, links, and more, right? So basically, what you can think of Stoneco is the early stage and Latin America version of Square, right? So you might say, oh, they're not innovating that much, but you have to realize that Brazil is actually very far behind the Western world when it comes to things like this, right? So this account also comes with business cards and also allows merchants to keep track of their business conveniently, right? So there's a lot more than just scanning on top of the machines, right? Because obviously you have to keep track of all these things and cloud-based solutions, stuff like that, right? Because it's not easy to keep track of all this data. So this is another one of their products. Pagami.me is a payment service provider that helps small businesses to accept card payments online easily, right? So it offers features like recurring billing, online voucher enablement, fraud management, and more, right? So obviously you hear of these things and it sounds like it's so simple, right? Such a simple business. How come they're growing so fast? How come they have such a moat? And it's because you have to know that the places that we live in are obviously different from the places that they live in, right? Basically, if you go to a remote place in Africa, these kind of solutions might seem like, I don't know, God is has come to the Africa or something like that to them, right? But it's because we know of all these solutions, so that's why it seems very, very simple to us. So if you're enjoying the video so far, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button and press on all, right? So this will really help out the channel, and also watch till the end, right? Because obviously you don't want to miss any important information. So let's take a look at the market opportunity. The fintech industry in Latin America is booming as digital transformation continues to accelerate. I believe the opportunity for Stoneco is huge, as the country is starting to adopt digital payments. You can see just starting, right? And we are already, 10 years after adopting digital payments. And you look at China, they are further ahead of US, right? So can you just like see how far ahead China is? So since the pandemic, the number of unbanked population has been drifting down as neobanks like Nu Holdings, Pax Seguro, and also Mercado Libre has continued to gain significant traction, right? So for instance, new bank customers increased 51% year over year, right? So insane numbers in Latin America. So now you can see that why I want to be investing in all these emerging markets, right? Basically. So let's take a look at their growth numbers. So active clients basically doubled in 1 year. So total payment volume up 50%. Total revenue up 275%, right? So you can see total payment volume, right? How come it's not increasing the same as their active clients, right? So first of all, they said that their active clients, basically the ones that just starting, are not using as much, because obviously when you're just starting to use a service, you don't use it that heavily, right? So that's understandable. But I think the second thing is obviously the higher interest rates are hitting the consumers, right? Because there is no way you raise your interest rates from, I think it was Brazilian interest rates were close to 0% or 1 or 2% to 13.75%, and it doesn't affect the consumer, right? Just look at the US. They've raised rates from 0% to now it's like 3.5%. Terminal will be 4.2%, and the mortgage rates are already causing the payments to double, right? So there is no way the everyday consumer is unaffected. And you can see adjusted income here. I don't think this matters so much right now because it's basically based on growth, right? So my valuation is basically based on their 2018 numbers, right? So if we take a look at my valuation, basically I have pretty optimistic growth rates. I think this would be considered like a normal case growth rate, considering they're growing 100%. I expect them to grow about 35% in the next 5 years, right? So this is the normal case. My optimistic case and my pessimistic case are also quite close by. So terminal multiple of 20, just because they are Brazilian companies, so they might not be valued so heavily unless there's another emerging market, basically gold rush, right? So like in the 80s or something, there was a emerging market like Focus, and basically emerging markets got like high multiples, right? So all in all, I come to basically a book value of 8.95 US dollar. Maybe this has to be revised a bit. I need to relook at the numbers because this valuation was done a bit back, right? So another thing is I came up with a 11.31 billion US dollar market cap. So if you input all these growth rates into an Excel calculator, you'll get the same numbers as me, right? And this is basically Savan Carlin's research platform, his calculator, right? So I'm not saying that these numbers are very accurate, but I think that the fact that I can do it without pulling out a Excel calculator, and I can be quite confident that I can invest in this company without Excel calculator. I'm already quite confident to invest in this company, right? But that just gives me a certain idea of what price and what value I have to sell it at. And also you can notice that my discount rate is 30%, right? Because it's a Brazilian company. So all in all, very high discount rates because of inflation, and also the interest rates there are higher. So what I want to talk about now is basically the reversion of interest rates, right? So because you can see that Brazil is one of the only companies that actually have real interest rates, right? So even the US is like, oh, we're going to have 4% interest rates, but they have 8% inflation. So that is a negative real interest rates, right? But in Brazil's case, their inflation year over year is currently 8.73%, but their interest rates is 13 point something percent, right? 13.75%. So in that case, they have about a 5% real interest rates, right? So if you have real interest rates, it's very healthy for the economy. And that means eventually you can lower the interest rates, right? And that's what I'm really looking out for in this case, right? So the reason that it went down so much in the first place, you have to remember that they were raising rates very aggressively during this period, right? And you can see that it's basically bottomed out around the $8 to $9 range. And maybe the reason is the inflation rates are basically being tamed in Brazil. And Brazil has a lot of tailwinds, right? Basically, they are commodity exporter. They have very young labor force. They have a lot of basically replacement rate because people there have a lot of children. Not like in Europe or something where you maybe a couple has one child, right? So in one generation, your population is slashed in half, right? So Brazilians, obviously, they have I don't know whether this statistics are accurate, but 1.8 children per woman, right? So basically, that is keeping up with the replacement rate. And also, you have to factor in immigration, stuff like that, right? So disclaimer, I'm already a shareholder, but I do plan to increase my shareholding more and more, right? So at these kind of ranges as well, right? So I just wanted to put out a video, try to clear out my thoughts. So it was a bit messy as well, so I really want to apologize for that. So this video maybe wasn't the best put together. So with that being said, do help me smash up the like button. Comment below, right? What do you think of this company, Stoneco? Am I missing anything? Hit subscribe and also hit the bell button. With that being said, have a fantastic day ahead and peace out.